Hello everyone and welcome back to Magpie Farm. We thought we'd do something a little bit different for a video for you this week. So we're going to look at the 6 best and worst things about moving from the UK to Poland. Keep in mind, these are our opinions and not necessarily the case if you lived in something like a city or something like that in Poland. We live in a very rural sort of area, and so it's very much based on our own perspectives of living in a rural area near the German border in Poland. So starting off with the least of the worst things is going to be the driving in Poland. And whilst Mariusz may be a bit more used to it because I don't do a lot of driving anymore, I have found it absolutely terrifying, if I'm perfectly honest, driving in Poland. Even if you're doing right up to the speed limit, they still literally will overtake you. Yeah, and they do it on bends as well, don't they?
Oh, that's the worst, isn't it?
Yeah. So you can have a speed limit of around 90 kilometers on a particular road. You're doing dead on that 90 or even just slightly over, and you'll be coming up to a bend and they will still just overtake you. We're not just talking about cars as well, this is vans.
Yeah, but you know, there is a reason for that.
What's the reason?
The reason is that in comparison to UK, Poland doesn't have dual carriageways pretty much everywhere, innit?
Like, you get bad drivers absolutely everywhere, but I've really noticed it over here.
The culture.
Yeah, the culture of driving, that's a good word, the culture of driving. And number 6 of the best things about being in Poland is eating out. I find that to be about 30% cheaper than the UK.
Maybe even more.
Maybe even more in some circumstances, yeah. Just to give you an example of that, we had a friend over, John from the UK came to visit a couple of months ago, and we all went out for a meal to local city Zari, and we went to a restaurant there. And this is like a hotel type restaurant, so it's called Anatoly, yeah, Anatoly. And we had a 3-course meal and a couple of beers. You had some Coke because you was driving. And I think the cost was about 45 pounds for 3 people for a 3-course meal. So that is really, really good value.
I mean, come on, when the main meal costs like what, £5, that says something.
Absolutely, yeah. And the food is, and the best thing about it is the food is really good. A lot of it, depending of course where you go, like any sort of restaurant, but a lot of it was homemade. So, you know, food, eating out is a positive experience for me, and of course you get a different variety of having different food, and it always helps in that one restaurant we go because they have the menu in English as well.
German.
And German, yeah. So that does sort of help that takes us on to number 5 of the worst thing about coming from UK to Poland, and this was something that really, really blew my mind. And that was the price of second-hand cars and the quality of them.
Oh. Yeah.
So I always had in my brain, okay, that because obviously Europe being the size it is, that the second-hand market for cars would make the cars a lot cheaper over here because they're all left-hand drive, and the majority of Europe drives left-hand drive cars. So I assumed very much wrongly assumed. Second-hand cars, well, they're absolute rubbish for the most part. So if you're buying a second-hand car that would normally cost, I don't know, £3,000 in the UK, you'd be looking at least paying, I would say, £5,000 a year, and you'd be and you'd be looking at high mileage. All the second-hand cars over here,
or cheated mileage.
are extremely high mileage, and you're looking like 100,000 miles on the clock, like 160,000 kilometers minimum. The average.
That's good, actually. 160,000 kilometers is actually good.
Yeah. The average one, we're looking to get an SUV for Mariusz for work for the winter, not particularly because we want one, but we live in a very rural area, and obviously if there's snow and ice on the ground, I need to know he's safe, and he's just got a little put car, as I call it, with like a 1100 engine in it or something. So we need something a bit more sturdy, living out in the sticks, and that's something that we learned from being here last winter, that we need an SUV, something that's capable of getting us around when we need to, especially for him for working. And the cost of an SUV is equally twice as much as what you pay for a second-hand one in the UK. And the mileage, minimum mileage we've seen is something like 240, 260,000 kilometres,
which is
that's what, 200,000 miles? Is it? No, 180,000?
60% less.
Yeah, something like that. So still going to be what, about
160?
160, 180,000 miles. Yeah, and the average one I've seen is around 300,000 kilometres. If you're getting something for 200,000 kilometres, that's good. The majority of them are 300,000 kilometres. Okay, and that then takes us adversely to number 5 on my best list of coming to Poland. And whilst we were just whining about how much second-hand cars cost and how high mileage they are, adversely, when you service a car over here, they're a heck of a lot cheaper. We've got our cars booked in for service, and the equivalent cost of a winter service plus oil change plus brake fluid change, which is more than just a general
full
winter service. Yeah, it is a full service. Yeah. It's coming out around 450 zloty, which is what, about £80?
Yeah, should be. What's the exchange rate now?
Oh, I think it's about 5.30, something like that, to the pound.
Yeah, it would be an 80, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, and the next big shocker for me, I don't know so much about for Mariusz, obviously being Polish originally, was we've always ever come over to visit Poland when it was the summer, or the autumn, or the spring. And I always found the weather quite pleasant, and in the summers very, very warm. When we came over, I think what shocked us, I think both shocked us.
It was the worst winter for like last 10 years.
Yeah, it was the worst winter for like the last 10 years. Yeah. So generally, in the winter, the temperatures are cooler, and even now the temperatures are getting down into like the zeros at night. And that's something I guess I'm not quite used to coming from the UK, so it's a little bit of a gripe. But you know what you're getting over here. The seasons are much more pronounced.
Distinctive?
Distinctive, that's another word. Yeah. You definitely get your spring, you definitely get your summer, you definitely get your autumn, and you definitely get your winter. Okay, so going on to the fourth best thing is the vet bills. Now, many of you who've seen our videos before will know that we have 2 puskins, but we have the cats and we have some livestock on the farm. and we was really worried when we first came over because we could not get insurance for the cats, and we couldn't figure this out. There seemed to be nobody selling emergency care sort of insurance. Now we could get insurance for preventative type care, you know, to take them in for their jabs and things like that. You could buy insurance for that, which is something, you know, a bit strange. I think you can get in the UK.
Expensive.
And it was quite expensive, but we couldn't get insurance for emergency care. But anyway, after being here a couple of months, I wanted to take the cats to the vet for a checkup. Because, you know, it was pretty traumatic as well, because when we came over, Mariusz drove over and we had the cats with us. And they were brilliant on the journey over. But still, I wanted to get them checked out to make sure they were okay. And we were really, really surprised of how little it cost in the vets over here. So for instance, when they had their checkup, it was identified that Bonnie needed 2 or 3 teeth out. She's, you know, not old, but she's about 11, 12 years old, and she needed 2 teeth out. And so that was the total cost of that surgery, plus a checkup for Woody, which was fine, and a general checkup for Bonnie as well, and doing bloods on both to check everything was okay. And I think the total cost was about £200. That is a fraction of what it would cost in the UK.
The initial checkup was like what? It cost like 50 zlotys, so it's like what, £9?
Yeah, £9 for a checkup.
How much is it in the UK?
Oh well, just to go through a vet door, you're paying about 65 quid. Do you know what I mean? Let alone if there's
Seriously?
let alone if there's anything
I mean,
needed.
you know, but that's why you have insurances, yes. But that makes things difficult because you have so many insuring companies and so competitive market on insurance.
Well.
I mean, that's my view. Yes, I mean, because everybody insures their animal, therefore they can afford to every pretty much treatment because insurance. Then vets can raise the prices. That's my understanding.
That's part of it.
That seems natural.
So next on our list of some of the worst things is the bureaucracy in Poland. Trying to do anything with local or central government is an absolute nightmare. You know, even sometimes paying a bill is an absolute nightmare. A lot of the time you can't do it online. Right, you'll have to go there manually or do a manual bank transfer just to pay general items. And customer service is not a thing, shall we say, over here. You know, you're looked at as if you're there because they have the right to be there and you're just a nuisance bothering them whilst they're trying to have their general day and their general chat.
It feels like it.
It does feel like it. I'm sure it's not the case.
Not always, yes. I mean, it depends.
But our experience of it, like when I changed my driving licence over from a British to a Polish one, Mariusz was changing his over from a British to a Polish one. He had his back in around a week and a half. It took mine 2.5 months. And we would ring up and check, and it was almost like, stop bothering us, your licence will arrive when your licence arrives.
Yeah, it was a nasty lady.
Okay, and welcome back. I've now got a coffee. Would have been no break for you, but
you got a coffee, I got a cat.
a 5-minute break for me for a cup of coffee. Okay, so the next best thing about living in Poland is the price of fuel, which is a heck of a lot cheaper than the UK, by around 20%-ish, I'd say. So, for instance, the price of fuel at the moment is the highest it's been Poland has ever known.
Yeah.
And it works out, and I did a quick calculation on my phone just before coming to do the video. At the current exchange rate, it works out at around £1.08 a litre, and diesel and petrol is around the same. Thankfully, I use nothing because I drive very little, if not at all these days. Mariusz uses it for work though, and it's handy that it is that cheap.
Yeah, many Germans comes to us since we live only like 5 kilometers, which is 2 miles, 3 miles from the border. Yeah, on our petrol station there's many Germans coming down because it obviously is much cheaper for them.
Yeah, so that's a positive.
Yeah.
And living out in the sticks, in the rural area that we live in, we need a car to be able to go shopping, to buy supplies, building supplies for all the work that we've been doing on the different projects. And it helps that the fuel is a lot cheaper. But the other side of that coin is that one of the worst things about being over here, more for Mariusz because I don't work anymore, is to do with wages in Poland. Wages are around 35, if not 40% worse than what you would get in the UK. That is a heck of a lot. Especially in the sort of like surrounding area, which isn't like big cities and all the rest of it. The nearest big city is Wrocław, which is around an hour and 20 minutes away. And you've got like big corporate businesses like Amazon warehouses and things like that. As you go there, I think the one is around 45 minutes away, isn't it? But the wages, but the wages there are still rubbish in comparison to the UK.
I mean, now Amazon is advertising like all fancy hunky-dory job, isn't it? And what is it? 23 to 25 złotych an hour, which is
£4.
I mean, 25 złotych is nearly £5, an hour. So it basically is half of what you get in UK. I suppose. What's the lowest salary now?
Well, the minimum wage is just going up to something like £9.50 an hour.
I see. So
it's
half
twice.
of that, pretty
It's
much.
yeah. And the minimum, I'm not sure what the minimum wage is here, but anyway, that's why you work in Germany.
Yeah.
Because their minimum wage is around comparable to the UK, just slightly less, I think, in euros. But that is, again, one of the negative things of actually Poland, and that is the wages. And it's not comparable when you look at the things like, even though petrol is cheaper, still running a car in Poland is, you've got to be earning a pretty good wage to be able to do so. But then again, the other side of that coin is, on one of the other good things about being over in Poland is, we talked earlier about the cost of eating out being cheaper. Well, food, generally buying, grocery shopping, is cheaper over here by about 20%, I would reckon. And I've noticed that on our food bill, it's probably 20 to 30% cheaper. Again, depends where you shop. You can go to some like high-classy type shops, and you'd end up paying probably just as much as the UK for certain things. But one thing that is definitely cheaper over in Poland is meat. Yeah. Except beef joints, I've noticed, are quite expensive. But chicken is cheap. Mince is like, for a pack of mince, beef or pork, you're looking about £1, £1.40.
Yeah.
A pack of bacon. Now, normally Poland does their own version of bacon. I'm not going to slag it, it's bloody awful. But the British bacon that you can now get in certain shops, in Biedronka, which is where we go shopping. Which used to be like the Ladybird shops, when you are old enough to remember those from the UK, which was like a spa type shop, and they're not like that anymore. They're much larger. They're like a small Tesco's. Basically, for a pack of bacon, which is like 6 slices, and it's a premium sort of bacon. Yeah. You're looking at about like £1.50 a pack. I mean, £1.60 a pack. So meat generally is cheaper over in Poland. I'm not sure there's anything I've seen that I thought, oh crumbs, that's really much more expensive than the UK food-wise.
Sriracha sauce? I don't know.
Oh yeah, well,
It's like £3 for a little bottle.
yeah,
so,
but that's
you know,
something
but it's
specialist.
import, innit?
Yeah,
It's
that's an import. That's something specialist. But generally, veg is cheaper. Generally, meat is cheaper, and of course that helps. And I can understand why it's cheaper, because the wages are so suppressed here; they're a lot lower. Then food has to be cheaper. Like people wouldn't be able to afford to eat, not eat decently anyway. And we're not talking like lavish eating or anything like that, but just generally to eat. So that's really helped. That being cheaper. So the cost of living from that perspective, if we're just looking at food and fuel alone, is cheaper substantially in comparison to the UK. But like everything, it's going up.
Yeah, but still, of course, we need to remember that this is based on the salary, which is at least half decent, yes, because if it was an even salary in Poland, this bacon for, let's say, £1.50 would be still very expensive for that,
Yeah.
for such people, yes, so
Yeah, that's
we're
true.
pretty lucky, yeah, we're pretty
That's
lucky
true.
that we're not in this situation.
Definitely.
And
Definitely.
that we live so close to the border, isn't it?
Yeah, and we have the option as well. I've not really found it a problem of thinking, right, I need to get something and we can't get it. Apart from gravy brownie. Can't get gravy brownie
There's no
anywhere.
such thing.
I know,
We
there's no
make-
such
we
thing in
make
Poland.
proper gravy in Poland.
Yeah, I can make proper gravy with corn flour and normal flour, but you need to have like an OXO cube at least, or something like that.
Well,
They don't do it. You can get the cubes for like the chicken stock and all that. That makes a sort of like chickenish type gravy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
No,
just one of
because
those
in
things.
UK you have what is it called?
Bisto.
Oh, bisto. You just pour bisto, add
Yeah,
water.
that's
and
just
you
a
have gravy.
lazy way of doing
yeah,
it. though.
but that's
just a
very popular in
that's
UK.
just a lazy way
And in
of doing
Poland
it.
we don't do that. We don't do that. We also don't have bread, which is a sponge. Yeah.
Yeah, well, true. But the bread over here goes off within about 2 days as well.
Because it doesn't have preservatives.
Yeah, you have noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and the worst of the worst that we have found, or I have found primarily, but I think Mariusz has found it as well, in comparison to living in the UK.
Yeah, but I kind of accept it because I'm kind of used to it.
Well, I'm not, and it drives me
Yeah.
insane, is services. Trying to get anything done by anybody over here is a bloody nightmare. So when you're looking at, for instance, I'm going to give you an example here. We had a new front door. We've not got a standard size front door being in a farmhouse. It is a very large front
Heavy,
door.
yeah.
Okay. So we wanted something bespoke, something individual made, and we wanted a wooden front door. So we've had a lovely front door made. In fairness, the front door is lovely. Okay. So the same guy who made the front door for us fitted the front door. Front door worked fine for about a month. And now the front door's gone just slightly, it's gone out of alignment.
Started sinking?
Yeah, well, it's gone over slightly. So it's out of alignment basically, so you have to push it to shove it. Which means not all the locks work on it properly as they should. It's a struggle to lock them. Not all of them, but one of them because it has double locks on it. So we rang the guy back up. It took forever in the first place, mind, to actually find somebody. So we rang the guy back up. Has absolutely zero interest, now they've had the money, to want to come back out and do anything. Now I know you have these sort of issues as well in the UK, but nowhere near to the extent here, okay? When we were having the new roof put on, it took what? 4 months? 4 months to get people down to give us quotes to actually get it done. Now part of the reason, mind, is because a lot of Polish people who would do normally services, and I'm talking services like repairs, building work, anything like that, are working abroad.
Yeah.
A lot of them are, because the money is so rubbish wage-wise in this country. But you wouldn't think it, because when you do actually get somebody to do something, I always thought, okay, thinking the cost of living is cheaper, but services would be cheaper as well. No. If not, they're the same as the UK.
Oh no, they're even more expensive.
They're more expensive.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely more expensive. And it is a nightmare getting absolutely anybody to do anything. So that is my worst pet hate, and I think it probably is yours as well.
I mean, I kind of also accept that. I mean, I just understand why is that, and this is something we can't control. I mean, let's compare to UK again. Yes, you have so many services. In every village there is always handyman of every source possible, and they fight for client, fight, and they kill each other for prices. The cheaper the better.
Not quite literally, mind.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But in Poland, it's. I mean, they are the lords. You are the one who has to listen to them, really, because they dictate the prices. And if you don't take their services, then you don't have any services. So,
and it's from everything from when they come down to give you a quote, they'll dictate when they can come down.
And they may even ask for money to come down.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, they may even. Now that partly could be because we live in a rural area.
Yeah, it's remote.
But we are remote. But we've even had people say to us, I'll come down and give you a quote, but I expect you to pay the petrol of people to do anything. It's easier if you live in the cities. We have got some friends that live in some larger towns and some cities, and it is a bit easier. But we have found that so difficult because we have struggled with doing many of the repairs and the installation ourselves, where it would have been so much easier for us and so much less stressful for us if we could get people in. But even getting somebody in causes stress.
But you know what? But if there's anything good about all this, this situation with services, is many people say that Polish are pretty crafty, handy, yes, and that's
because they have to be.
They have to be. They have no choice. If you want to have your plastering done, you have no other choice than take your neighbor, take your uncle, and just do it, yes, yourself.
But then you get to the situation, though, like we used to call it in the UK, the house that Jack built. Okay.
Yeah, you see loads
Jack,
of them.
Jack of all trades, that means. Do you know what I mean? So basically, they don't do a very good job. And come on, we've had people here, and we thought they've done some work, and we thought we could have done a 10 times better job of that ourselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes I've lost it, and we had a guy down to help do some plastering, and apart from being drunk half the time that they were here, which is, and finding empty cans of lager and things hidden everywhere. Do you know what I mean? It just blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind. But we've learned the hard way on that, but it is still difficult. It's like, we've tried to get somebody to come down and fix our front door, because there's certain skills that we have, and there's certain skills we don't have, and that's not one of them that we do have. So to get somebody down to actually do that, has been a bloody nightmare.
Because it's too small of a job. Yeah. Like in UK, there is no job too small. They can come down and change your light bulb if need be. They will of course charge for it, but they will do so. But in Poland, there are jobs which are too small. Yes. And
well, they're not fighting for customers, are they?
They don't have to.
No, the customers are fighting for them.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was my worst peeve, whatever you want to call it. I'm not going on about it too much because I end up losing my mind over it. It drives me mental. It causes so much stress for us. It really does. I can sit here sometimes and bloody cry, to be perfectly honest, with the amount of people that have messed us about. It's just horrific.
Yeah.
It is just horrific. But we live and learn. But to end on a positive note, the best thing about being in Poland, apart from the farmhouse and the farm
and the land
and space,
freedom,
has got to be the open spaces and the forestries of Poland. In comparison to the UK, and I love Wales, originally from where I'm from, I do miss the hills. because there are no hills around where we live. But we do have the mountains. What's the name of the mountains that are only about 2 hours away?
Carpate, I think it is.
Carpate.
Carpate. Come on, say it.
Carpate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the scenery is absolutely breathtaking, and that is the brilliant thing about living in Poland. We don't have to go far before you have absolutely breathtaking scenery. It is out of this world, whether it's a forest and you could just walk for miles, and a lot of them are publicly owned, so there's no restriction.
Yeah, they own by state, so there is no limit. Of course, you cannot enter by cars mainly, but
yeah, well, that's fair
by
enough.
all means, if you
Yeah,
walk.
yeah.
But in UK, many forests they like private, and there's no trespassing and stuff like that, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
quite horrible. You have so little forests, and you can't really enter many of them, I suppose.
But the brilliant thing is here, and we'll put a link down below as well for our video on the mushroom hunting.
Oh yes.
Yeah, you know, where you can just go mushroom hunting in the local forests. It is a big pastime over here, and it is just brilliant. And I just love the culture of the Polish people. I love the self-sufficiency element of it, not linked to the services, obviously. Don't start me on that again. But the actual culture of the Polish people. They suffered a lot under communism and other things like that, and they've had to become a lot more self-reliant.
Yeah.
But I have found them for the most part to be very welcoming, very warm. You know, even my mother-in-law, bless her cotton socks, Stasha.
Cotton socks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, very welcoming, very warm, and that has to be the best thing about Poland. And of course, the fact that we're together here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Which is the best thing. With the cats. So I hope you've enjoyed this best and worst about Poland moving from the UK and the differences as I see them. If you have enjoyed it, consider giving us a like or a subscribe. And if you disagree with anything that we've actually said, put it down in the comments. Let's have a discussion about it. And if you'd like to see more of this type of video, again, put it down in the comments and let us know. So until next time, from Lynne and Mariusz at Magpie Farm, have a good one. Bye for now.
Bye bye.